In this paper, my co-authors and I examined data from the extremely low gestational age newborn study, also known as the LGAM study. This is a multi-center prospective observational study of the risks of structural and functional neurological deficits in extremely preterm infants. Women who were delivering their babies before 28 weeks gestation were recruited into the study in the years 2002, 2003, and 2004. Recruitment was conducted in 11 cities across 5 states. When the children who were enrolled in this study reached the age of 10 years, their families were contacted for follow-up testing. As part of this assessment, each child was administered standardized tests of intelligence, standardized measures of academic achievement, as well as a small battery of neuropsychological tests. We know from the literature that children who are born very preterm are at increased risk for having neurocognitive deficits. Studies that have followed up children through elementary school and high school have found an increased risk for low academic performance, particularly in the area of mathematics. In our sample, we had complete data from 848 children. This represents the largest U.S. study of school-age performance in children who are born at less than 28 weeks gestation. Children who are born very preterm are at increased risk for having low IQs or intellectual disability, and this is associated with low academic performance. In this paper, we therefore limited our analyses to only those children who had IQs above 70, therefore who did not have an intellectual disability, and this resulted in a final sample of 668 children. We also know that low socioeconomic status is associated with an increased risk of preterm birth. We found that low maternal education, a measure of socioeconomic status, was correlated with academic test performance. We therefore controlled for SES in our paper. We found that 30% of the group had low achievement in reading, math, or both. We also found that the rates of having overall low performance in math was twice as great as having low performance in reading. We were particularly interested in the patterns of neuropsychological test performance amongst the children who had these learning difficulties. We found that the pattern of test performance was different in those children who had a learning disability in math compared with those who had a learning disability in reading. Those children who had low performance across both reading and math had overall weaker performance across the neuropsychological measures. It's important to remember that while many children who are born very preterm do not have significant neurocognitive deficits, the results from our study show that even in those children who don't have significant neurocognitive deficits, there is an increased risk of having lower than expected academic performance. We therefore encourage parents of very young children to consider enrolling them in preschool programs or Head Start programs and to promote good kindergarten readiness skills at home before their children enter formal school. If parents have any concerns about their child's performance, whether they're falling behind or they seem to be struggling in school, it's important to encourage them to ask for assistance as early as possible.